the directions of these Kenyan elections. And even to be brief and to go to exactly in the 2022 elections, you saw the Azimio team went to Chatham House, but what the media tells us is, of course, the European Union, the Western world is taking care of their interests. But that's not what happens. That's where they're doing an interview of who is going to be the president of what country. And now speaking about Kenya. And they qualify these people on how easily they can manipulate them and buy them in their history. And unfortunately, the Azimio team has not been very lucky in being the anointed people. So these are the team which is easily manipulated, which can carry an agenda, the Western agenda in Kenya, was anointed for this election. So elections in Kenya start from the very end. They know who they want. They start working backwards. And the media plays a big role in this. Propaganda plays a big role in this because narratives are set and then we work backwards to the people. One of the elections, these 2022 elections, and I don't know if one day we will ever be able to audit a Kenyan election, because what we get as leadership in this country is not what Kenyans elected. And I will shock you by telling you, high-level campaign secretariats know where the government is headed to. You must have had, like I come from Mount Kenya. In Mount Kenya, we used Jubilee Party. And members of parliament that are vying, utasikia wakisema, serikali inaenda pande gani? It's not everyone who has this information. And for you get the ticket of the side where the government is going. Usually it is not who is popular, it is who has been anointed to be the leader. That's why everyone was scampering for a UDA ticket. All the Jubilee people, they just jumped to this other side and got tickets, actually bought tickets. They just buy these tickets to secure getting another term in parliament. And what I would say, if you study the Cherera for what they were talking about, the results of 2022. But because the country is highly charged, people don't listen to the details. But for example, Kiambu County had an excess of 500,000 votes on one candidate. But people say, you know, these things are very small. They're not going to sway an entire election. Let's not look at them. But those things could sway a whole election. No one has ever looked keenly or talked about Smartmatic and how Kenyan data is diverted and changed, or a logarithm is set to change or sway the data. That is what happens on Kenyan election. This is not local. This is not something done locally. It is an international manipulation of a Kenyan election. Someone needs to write a document about how we've lost our sovereignty. That's why when our president was sworn into office, he has done everything that's a foreign policy. It's not a Kenyan policy. In the Kibaki administration, we had public participation about GMO. Documents sit in parliament. But what did Ruto do? Immediately he came in, he lifted the ban on GMO. No public participation, nothing discussed in parliament, and GMO was allowed in Kenya. Every single loan that is coming to Kenya right now through IMF and World Bank has a social economic agenda attached to it. We give you this loan, you pass this bill, you pass this bill. That's why right now the agriculture bill has been passed. That's why right now it's a criminal activity to carry out agricultural activities unless you have a diploma in agriculture. Otherwise, you face a jail term or a bail. If anyone is willing, lawyers listening to this, please audit every single bill that has been passed in the Kenyan parliament. It's a foreign agenda. It's not a Kenyan agenda. Social economic structures Like on the 24th of July, there is a case, there are Kenyans agriculturists who have come together who are suing because it's now criminal to share seeds in Kenya. These are legislations that have gone through the parliament. That's why I would say this is the worst government I've ever seen as a Kenyan, because no one cares about the bills they have passed in that parliament. Why is our president jumping as high as the foreign masters want him to jump? Because they played a big role in his presidency. He has no stance to fight for the Kenyan people. That's why he was the best candidate for them. And if anyone feels like my sentiments are not true, tell me one single thing he has done that is good for the Kenyan people. Even this finance bill is all a social economic structure attached to IMF funding. When you study all these things that have happened in this country, you realize the foreign hand in the Kenyan democracy, it is so huge. And I will shock you when I tell you, even on the opposition side, a high level, they always know where the presidency is going. I will shock you to tell you, even Raila knew, let me do this thing to maintain my backyard, to maintain the control of half of the country. He has a big following. To control Azimio, to have a big number members of parliament in parliament. But he knew he's not going to ascend to presidency because he sort of lost the willingness to keep fighting, because it's a big monster to fight. When the election is done, he'll quickly be meeting the ambassadors. He'll quickly be meeting the EU commissioners, because the players that be have to manipulate both sides. That's why even now, his AU seat is really attached to these foreign bodies. They just want to balance an equilibrium in Kenya, because we are the products in the market. We are the slaves. They're squeezing every little life out of us as they manipulate a sitting government and manipulate an opposition. And as we sit here, discussions are underway of building a government of sort of national unity. I don't know if they're going to call it coalition. And they think that is going to quell the cry of Kenyans right now. They just want a working situation to continue pushing their social economic agendas, which are not Kenyan, which are not for the good of any Kenyan. And you will see they are going to have cabinet positions next week or next week, but what? And you will see what these people are doing. They are working together. If they were not working together, none of these players is coming out clearly and listening to what Kenyans are saying. Because what Kenyans are saying, this government is not fighting for us. Even on the smallest level, this government is not fighting for Kenyans. For the people that can study and do this, if you study the Venezuelan hand in the Kenyan government, it was huge. The foreigners played a big role in diverting the will of the people. And I will tell you again and again, what you see today is not what Kenyans voted. Thank you, Eric, for your time.
Oh, what do you mean?
My lord, I wonder. I wonder.
What I'm going to teach you in.
So, Cyprian, go on. I can't take this.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Allow me to bring in Mr. Tony Gashoka into the broadcast. So kindly, you can proceed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me? This is an important subject because it's dealing with economic pain. Economic pain is actually the whole purpose of any government. And unfortunately for ourselves right now, the government is not being held to account. When the framers of the 2010 Constitution put it together, under Article 4, which declared Kenya to be a republic, there was the provision that Kenya is a sovereign republic under Part 1, but under Part 2, the Republic of Kenya shall be a multi-party democratic state founded on national values and the principles of government that follow Article 10. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because the only way in which a democratic republic can function is when the government of the day is held to account by the people of the country. Hello? Am I being heard?
Yes, yes, yes. Go on, go on, go on. We can hear you.
And I want to bring this alarm because Jimmy Wanjigi was speaking competently about what the executives have been doing wrong. And he was talking about the need for us, the people, to hold that government to account. But the only reason that we are being asked to hold the government to account is because of the failure, complete failure of the opposition. And therefore, we cannot have any discussion about progressing Kenya with only Ruto must go. There must include the removal of this parliament and this Senate. Because the President Ruto, when he came into office, his first act was to buy political parties. All of you saw how quickly he moved to do that. And where he could not buy the parties, he bought individual members of parliament. Under our constitution, which is modeled under the Westminster model, the opposition is meant to be an official opposition with equal power to a government so that they can oppose the government of the day in order that the people can get a better government. And the public finances in the consolidated fund are meant to fund that opposition equally as they fund a cabinet and as they fund the presidency. So that at any point, the country is having a mirror. Our country is having a dual view, dual highway as to what is happening in the country. And since we allowed Ruto to raid the opposition benches and to actually assume the majority leader in parliament, when actually Azimio won the majority of members in parliament, then nobody is holding Ruto to account. Traditionally, the watchdogs in parliament, the Parliamentary Accounts Committee, the Public Investment Committee are chaired by the opposition. And the constitution under the Westminster model envisaged that a government cannot police itself. It must be policed by the opposition. And the Attorney General and the Auditor General and all the heads of any corporation or ministry were required to go to either committee for scrutiny, the same way they would have to go if the president was to summon them. And these are the reports, for example, that came during the Goldenberg scandal, during the Moi time, during the Kibaki time, the agro-leasing scandal, and so forth. But now what you have is the executive in full control of parliament, in full control of the executive, and therefore there is no accountability. And the citizens, as Jimmy is saying, we need to educate people, but the level at which we are educating the people means they don't have the access to government records. And unless Jimmy had put the kind of money he did to get the forensic audit, it was not possible. Yet the Constitution provides that we, the people, fund the opposition, and they have access to government records, have got access to everything so that they can give us this information. So as a people, we should never have reached this position if parliament and if the opposition was doing its work. Why do I raise this issue? I raise this issue because the GenZ revolution of 2024 is very different from the revolutions we had run before against Moi and against the second liberation, let's say. And the reason it is different, they started with the no finance bill by occupying parliament and naming the MPs, tukaende tukasalimie hawa ma MPs. Then what happened is there was equal fear on government MPs as there was on opposition MPs. And it was the panic of those members of parliament because of this revolution strategy that jilted Ruto to say he will not sign the finance bill. It's because MPs went to him and told him we are finished. If we do this, we are gone, and these people will throw us out. So I want to say that I think if we look at the way forward, we must of all right now start being very, very critical of the people we are calling were heroes of yesterday. My friend Raila Odinga, who Jimmy and I know well, I want to warn him in this forum, and I want to tell him openly, if you become the man that goes to save Zakayo, you will not only be abdicating your responsibility as an opposition leader, but you will be killing the democratic state that was envisaged by our founding fathers. And this will be a legacy even Jaramogi will not forgive you for. Because the whole idea of fighting for Section 2A under the Moi regime was that we have a multi-party state where opposition parties would hold the government of the day to account. This way we are proceeding is making our citizens go and elect us in elections, which is their duty, and then tell them to manage the executive, to hold it to account and to remove it when they have also elected opposition MPs to do that on their behalf. So I wanted today to change this conversation to say that as we go to the streets from the 16th of this month, we go with two pieces of agenda. That even if Ruto was to go home, but we elect this kind of MPs, we are going to go nowhere. I want to give two examples. The MP for Cilicia, John Waluke, was convicted by a competent court of his peers to 67 years in jail for stealing 1 billion shillings from the National Cereal and Produce Board. Waluke was told in the alternative of his death sentence, he will have to pay back the 1 billion shillings. Not only was Waluke released on an appeal, he participated in an election, was re-elected to parliament against Chapter 10 of the Leadership Act, but he's still an MP, was elected under an opposition ticket, but now is working with William Ruto. So what are the Kenyan people being treated to? We are being treated to musical chairs of these people who have been corrupted in the system. So it doesn't matter if they're in the opposition or in the government, they are all in one boat. And this is why we must sound this alarm. Because if the MCAs in Eldoret or where that young lady was coming from, I could hear her pain of this Finland money. If all the MCAs of the opposition had taken her clarion call, I can tell you that money would have been paid back by the county. But because the executive is not doing it and the opposition is not doing it, this young girl becomes the advocate of the grandfathers and grandmothers of that area of Kenya. So today I want to say this, and I really hope that Raila Odinga's friends are on this line. Because before this, the only critic of Raila Odinga was Meguna. And I found sometimes he could be excessive in his language. But I want to tell Odinga, after working with him for several years, Kenya is at crossroads. And this particular time, I know you're having resistance from other leaders of Azimio who are not boarding on this idea of a cabinet reshuffle or an idea of some kind of dialogue. I want to tell this country why the court rejected BBI. BBI was rejected by 5 judges of the High Court because they said that this was driven by the president and Raila Odinga. It was not driven by the public. It was not people-driven. And because it was not people-driven, the judges, Judge Ogunda, Judge Ngugi, Judge Nyaga, and Matheka, and all of them said that the only way to alter the constitution is to involve the people and get them to begin their agenda. Now, when you say you're going to have a dialogue, and you're calling it a public dialogue, but you're not involving the people, you are saying it as Raila. You are going to do to us again what you tried to do to BBI. Because the people who are marching and who started this agenda asked you to stay at home. Why are you leaving the house? Stay where they asked you to stay. If they want dialogue, they will ask for it. If they want to talk to Ruto, they'll ask for it. Why are you intervening in a constitutional moment where the people are only acting because the opposition is not acting? So as Jimmy is saying, if these matters had just also had more people giving Jimmy some space, if there were more leaders in the opposition, if there were more people adding voice and adding, firewood to this fire, this issue of economic rape and economic destruction of Kenya would have reached all of us sooner before we get, from the frying pan to the fire. Why am I raising these things? I'm raising these things because I was a press officer or press head of ODM in 2007 and working for Raila Odinga. And that time, I remember that when there was post-election violence in Kenya, Anyang' Nyong'o, who was Secretary General of ODM, wrote a letter to The Hague, to the prosecutor, and said, as ODM, we would like to bring information of crimes against humanity that were done in this country. And they named William Ruto as one of the offenders, according to the violations that could amount to human rights. And following the letter of ODM, William Ruto was charged with 3 crimes of forcible eviction of population and so forth under the Charter of Human Rights. And the same Raila today is telling us that this thing he saw on the streets where 41 people were killed, when he was leading demonstration, 70 somebody people were killed. He's okay with it now that he can talk to Ruto for some dialogue to form some government of national unity. Then I have a duty to call out who was my former friend and say, as much as we are fighting Ruto, we must fight you. Because if you are going to take the country back every time we move forward, this generation cannot inherit our mistakes because we have allowed this to continue to be the modus operandi. We go forward and deals are made from IPPG, a settlement, political settlement. We go back, government of national unity. We go back, we go to NADCO. From the day we went to NADCO, what one thing has been implemented in NADCO? People told me the other day, there is an electoral commission. That electoral commission, who will appoint those people who will go to appoint commissioners? It will be a meeting between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. And if Odinga remains compromised as he is, how do you think we'll have a people's electoral commission? And that is why this nation, this country at this time, must do everything possible to constitute a public constituent assembly, form a transitional authority, and take power. And I want to say, if we do not do that, then these generations and those people who died will repeat the mistakes of their fathers. We are going to go back to a talking shop. We are going to go back to political settlements. Raila will be the chairman of the African Union. His daughter will be the head of somewhere in Yala, and Kalon, and whoever else will be where. I just want you and this country to understand the dangers we are in. The dangers that we have are not tied to the executive. They are tied to abuse of the 2010 Constitution. As I finalize, I wanted to say that under the 2010 Constitution, Chapter 4 gave the Bill of Rights. And that Bill of Rights, read together with Chapter 1, where the sovereignty is with the people, was put in Bomas of Kenya by very senior people like Yash Guy for a reason. Because they foresaw a situation where the government and the opposition betray the people. So in the 2010 Constitution, and Kenya has one of the most advanced constitutions in the world, they put the Bill of Rights, where the sovereignty ran with the people. And to change that constitution, the executive could not manipulate the opposition to change it. And why the BBI was defeated by the High Court is they said if the executive conspires with the opposition to change the constitution, then the public will be have no defense. And this is a preserve only for the people of Kenya. And therefore, I would like to I want to thank Eric for this opportunity. I didn't want to get deep into the economics because I thought speakers before me have got very clear issues on the public debt and where it is and the problems that we have. And of course, that it's really impossible to solve this problem without either a default or a forgiveness of debt. It is just not possible. So my parting comment is that, ambition without knowledge is like a ship on land. And we may be happy saying Ruto must go, but I fear that if we don't change, not just the people who are in parliament, but the way we vote to a tribeless, active, informed election throughout the country, if we do not reduce the cost of leaders, we have 47 counties when we could have 7. We have a woman leader or woman representative who does nothing. She has no duty in the constituency. She has no duty in the county, paid by the public. We've got so many parliamentarians, I don't know how many hundreds, when we could have just 100. We have a bloated system because we said, oh, if we decentralize the resources, governors will be okay. Now we have got 47 centers of corruption. Nairobi County should be a ministry in the government of Kenya because of its enormity. And because it is late in the day, and I know many of these people will have things to say, I just wanted to contribute into this conversation that maybe we should have a bird's eye view, a deeper assessment on protecting the democratic state. And it cannot be protected by the executive alone. It must be protected outside the executive as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Gen Z, I'm waiting for my young siblings to come. Where is Kiduze? Kiduze. Is he there? Kiduze? Chwani?
Hello?
Chwani? Yes.
Oh,
Go on. Please go on. Chwani?
Eric, I'm not sure we have him on the call.
Yeah, he's there. He's there. I'm waiting for him. I've seen him here. Please, can you start, please? You are wasting our time. Can you go on?
Hello.
Go on, please. Yeah, that one is wasting our time. Polo Kimani, go on.
Thank you very much, Master Amerix, for giving me this chance to talk just a little bit. I'm not going to talk much, but whatever I'm going to say, you really need to be keen on what I'm going to say. So here's the thing. As I've received the information that as from today, there was a meeting. There has been a meeting, and what the meeting was about is basically Raila Odinga trying to come again and pretend that he is one of us. He's trying to come and kingpin himself as people love Raila. We used to love him, but now his plan is to come. He pretends ajifanya kona sisi, but then when we now embrace him, he now goes and sells us to the Sugoi merchant once again. What I'm just trying to say is, do not accept that. We must remain leaderless. We must remain focused on our goal. And if in any case anything happens, we must not, our leaders wanted to attack. And also another thing, I can't even believe I'm saying this, but at some point I feel like Sugoi's recklessness and Tamayake, it has really opened us our eyes to discover more things. Things like mining. I've been working on that area for a very jana juzi na juzi ingine. I've been working on that, and I came to realize there's a lot of shit happening in Kenya that most people are not even aware of. Hata zile jet mnaona huyu jamaa ati alienda huko anasema alitumwa na mabesti zake. Kumbe huyu jamaa alienda kutuza huko bana. So I'm not going to talk about that pretty much. I'm planning to kuna files bado na kusanya hapa na pale before I give you
Yes.
a full dossier of what is actually happening. Because
Yes.
I've come to understand even there's a part of where the Pandora Papers, this whole thing is it's like a food web, a very big web that is interconnected. Easy conservancies is our nini. A lot of dark things that are happening at the expense of Kenyans are really happening. Are really happening. Nyuma ya tent.
Okay.
So we must. Our goal at okay.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk much. Maybe there are other people who want to say something more important. But my goal was if Raila is trying to integrate our movement, we must not allow him.
Okay.
He's a sellout.
All right.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you very much. There
Eric,
was
can you hear
Mercy
me?
here who talked a lot about fertilizer and I've heard Tony talk about the members of parliament, how they've wasted us. I'm not giving a chance to politicians to speak, but there is this politician who voted no. I think is the only one from Bungoma County. He should tell us why he voted no and why his other colleagues voted yes. He should tell us. Jack Wanami, Bumula. How are you, sir?
Mzuri sana bwana. Eric, habari ya
Yes.
wewe?
Mzuri, go on. We give you 4 minutes.
Thank you for inviting me in this space. I'm Wanami Wamboka, Member of Parliament, Bumula constituency. Voted on DAP ticket Azimio, and of course I voted no for the finance bill for reasons that are clear. That one, William Ruto is taking this country in a different direction. I was a sponsor of the Linturi Oster motion because I believed, and I still believe, Mithika Linturi needs to be in jail. Now, listen, Kenyans, you have a minister, first, who brings in contaminated sugar, which has gone to affect Kenyans. And by the way, you may not realize today, a lot of Kenyans are going to suffer from cancer cases because of the contaminated sugar that got its way to the market of Kenya because we had a fraudulent minister called Mithika Linturi. And Kenyans move on as if nothing happened. Then this guy brings in fertilizer that is contaminated. He moves and because of his issues, he goes and gives a company called MEMS Distribution Company, of course, belonging to his former brother-in-law, which has never been involved in distribution, manufacturing, or fertilizer in any way. So that MEMS proceeds now to look for real manufacturers and distributors of fertilizer in the name of chaos. These guys ordinarily just fraudulently give Kenyans bad fertilizer. Can you hear me, Eric? Hello? Eric, can you hear me?
Yes. Wamboka.
Okay. You see, the guy oversteps the constitution, decides to deal with the National Cereals Board, who does not have the mandate to deal, distribute, manufacture, package, and everything about fertilizer. So when the thing came up in the public, of course, Mithika Linturi was a crook. He's a fraudster. I looked around. I'm also the chairman of Public Investments Committee, Education and Governance. So we oversight. One of my roles is to oversight government. So I decided to put in a petition, a motion to remove Mithika Linturi. And by the way, we successfully impeached Mithika Linturi. 149 against 33. That those members who were not in parliament that day, who wanted to vote virtually, and the list could have been even longer. They form a committee now to look at the merits and demerits of the motion. I was so frustrated. At that time,
All right. I think we completely lost him. And let me welcome Stay Hidden. And then Stay Hidden, then Mahanu. I want more of these Gen Zs. Where are they? These 24, 23, 22-year-olds. I want you here. I want you to speak. This is your generation. This is your movement. Stay hidden. Stay hidden.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please go on. Please go on.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Am I audible? Okay. Okay, sawa. So on my aspect, nitaongelea na story ya how we can solve where the problems we are having right now. And I'll keep it short. According to venye tumeambiwa hapo na Wanjigi, we can see from the primary balance audit, tumepata tuko na balance ya 1.3 trillion. Lakini the government ilienda kuchukua loan ya 7.7 trillion. That means hakuna mtu akitaka kukuibia, for example nikitaka kwenda kuiba, siwezi enda kuiba kwa ghettos, itabidi nimeenda kuiba, kana nataka kuiba billions nitaenda kuiba kwa banks zenye ziko huko Westlands and posh places, place niko sure nitatoka hapo na pesa mzuri. That's what the government is doing. The government inaweka pesa, inatuwekea pesa kwa mfuko ndio ituibie, kwa sababu the deficit was there, it was kidogo, na wangejaribu kuiba, some development projects hazingeendelea na pia mishahara ingelipwa. So through that balance audit inaonyesha tu simply the government ilienda kuborrow excess 7.7 trillion more than 1.3 trillion. Kwa sababu gani? Kwa sababu inataka iwekee pesa kwa mfuko iwaibie. And through those kenye Wanjigi amewaelezea, ukiangalia through just the first year in 2014, the government had already initiated plans so that in those plans walikuwa washa claim an odious debt of 0.7 trillion. Na hiyo unaangalia ni the Eurobond of 2014 peke yake. Ukiangalia Eurobond of 2014 peke yake na the SGR deal, ukichanganya hizo zote mbili, zote zina end up to almost 0.7 trillion. And how can we curb these loopholes? If you want to get more details about how the Eurobond, niko na thread na nimeweka hapo kwa charts, utaangalia there is a thread about public debt scrutiny yenye inaongelea kuhusu Eurobond, na kuna thread nyingine ambayo inaongelea SGR. You can see from those threads there. So on another thing that we'll need to curb loopholes pia ni corruption. Corruption through.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, but you need to go straight to
so
the point.
In corruption, pia there's threats about corruption, especially on budgeted corruption. In this sense, Wanjigi ashatuelezea more about public debt wherever we are penye tuko. I'll give an example of budgeted corruption yenye may happen. I have another thread on budgeted corruption about national government, but let's see this an example of roads project. For example, in 2013 to 2017, the Jubilee government increased roads by 5,800 kilometers during that period. Now, during that period, it spent 614 billion on roads. That was 60% more than the Kibaki government yenye ilikuwa imetumia 376 billion. Ukikuja, the average cost per kilometer the Jubilee government used was 96 million per kilometer. But ukiangalia what the other government used, previous government used was 51 million per kilometer. That's a very big margin and increase. Na kwa nini hiyo margin inaonekana kuincrease hapo? Ukikuja 5 years later, utapata 9 roads zenye zilijengwa zilikuwa zinatumia 300 million per kilometer. And these roads accounted for 20% of the portfolio of the roads that were built during that period. Na only 3% by volume. Notable roads zenye zilijengwa na hiyo amount ni hiyo Jamasara to Kisumu Airport na Mombasa Southeastern Bypass. Especially the Mombasa Southeastern Bypass was built by 1,155 per kilometer. Na the previous government ilikuwa imebuild na per kilometer utapata hapo ni 30 million per something of that sort. So the government inaweka projects at a higher cost so that so long as hii kitu inaenda itapitishwa kwa appropriations bill, hakuna kitu tunaweza fanya government not to steal. So in my own view, what I think is, but you can go, niko na thread about budgeted corruption on roads. You can check on those details. Iko na more details na ni iko kwa chat, na kuna another thread on budgeted corruption on electricity. Iko na more details on how the government ina make sure inatumia loophole. Should I say a loophole ama ina abuse whatever? So long as washa budget kwa appropriations bill,
Okay.
whatever they'll steal from there ni wao.
Right.
So what are the solutions that we can stop such things? In my case, as conversing with other Gen Z, we realize that we can't trust the government right now. At the same sense, we can't even trust the judicial system. Juu government bado inalipa the judicial system. So regardless of the president ama the regime in place, watakuwa wanalipa judicial system. Na ukiangalia hata EACC, we can't even trust EACC. Nilikuwa naangalia a certain meme ilikuwa inatembea ati after 2000 cases, only 20 cases, less than 20 cases ndio zimekuwa prosecuted na zika go through. Na that's a very that's a massive failure rate. So as Gen Z, we can never trust this judicial, we can never trust EACC, na pia tuwezi trust the wabunge. For example, during this current financial year, the parliament approved only 313 to come from external loans. But ukiangalia kwa budget yenye wamepitisha kwa appropriations bill pale, wanasema aje, wanataka external loans ikuwe almost 850 somewhere there. Maximum imeongezeka ya almost 500. Hiyo yote imeombwa unconstitutional. Na the same thing it happened. Ukiangalia from 2013 to 2022, Uhuru did, 2013 to 2022, yeah. Uhuru did the same thing. Amekuwa approved 4 trillion and anaenda kuborrow 7.7 trillion. These are loopholes they'll continue to use. And if set up policies that are inscribed in the constitution, hawataacha regardless of the president or the regime in place or the members of parliament in place. So in my own view, I think we can have a Bitcoin, a blockchain system. A blockchain system, let me break it down simply so that people can understand how can a blockchain system help us. For example, let's assume umekuja kununua nyumba, let's say umekuja town, no, ama you are in Thika Road and you're looking for a house na umepata Roysambu, I'm there. Umenipata mimi ndio nauza nyumba. I give you a folder. In that folder, wiki open page 1, unaona 2001, this house was built. Ukifungua next folder, unaona 2002, kulikuwa na renovation ya mabati and what not. 2003, but ukiangalia nyumba, unaona hii nyumba ilijengwa na ile bricks ama mawe zile zilikuwa zinatumika na wazungu, the British by that then. Hauwezi trust my folder. So blockchain simply is what can I say? Is simply a diary in this sense. Kama nauza hii nyumba, so nyumba zote zenye ziko hapa tunaweka na diary na sio mimi peke yake. It's a distributed ledger in that mimi na watu wote wanaishi kwa hii kijiji tuko na hii diary. Na any renovation I make kwa hii nyumba na keep kwa hii diary. So mtu mwenye anakuja kununua hii nyumba akiangalia diary yangu anaenda kuconfirm with another diaries from other people. That's what blockchain does. Inakuwa distributed ledger from very many people. In case my diary has information that other diaries zenye zimerecord all those transactions haiko hapo, that means my diary iko compromised. So my diary itatupwa kwa system, itatupwa kwa hiyo chain. Zile blockchain zenye zina diary zina entries zenye zinafanana, they'll still remain in the empty chain. So in short, how can blockchain help us? For once, hata kama President Ruto amefukuza the cabinet secretaries, we as Gen Z, we don't trust that ati Ruto atakuja back appoint other cabinet secretary based on competence. Hatuko sure maybe at a point bado on political loyalty or that. But for example, through blockchain voting tunaweza amua kukuwe na certain threshold ya watu fulani kwa kila county ama kila constituency wapige kura through blockchain voting so that to approve hiyo sisi wananchi tugeuze power ikuwe power, we bring back power to us as citizen, so that sisi citizen tupige kura through blockchain voting. Haitaitisha pesa mingi ya IBC ku hold elections. It's just a blockchain voting, so long as uko na phone ama laptop utapigia, tuta approve that CS. Another thing, loan approval.
Please, wind up.
Na blockchain voting wakati anytime the government wants to take loan. For example, kwenye nilikuwa nimesema kama Ruto alikuwa ameapproviwa na government only 313 loans, kama alikuwa ameapprove only 313 billion na anaenda pana kwa budget anasema anataka 870 billion, hiyo ingine 500 ni extra. But kukiwa na blockchain voting tuta make sure so long as una loan the Kenyan government, kama utaenda against the constitution ni shauri yako, hiyo deni hatutalipa. Na kwa constitution tushaweka kutakuwa na blockchain voting yenye kama president yoyote mwenye yuko in place, si wa leo ama wa kesho, tutavote kama hiyo wananchi wana approve hiyo deni, sawa, atapewa. Kama wananchi hawa approve hiyo deni, hatapewa. Another thing yenye tunafaa tuvotie on through that blockchain voting, loan usage. Hiyo loan itumike wapi?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us go to the next. Did you finish, Jack? Did you get your internet? Did Jack get his internet back? Jack, did you get your internet back? As we wait for Jack to finish what he was saying, where is Chwani? Where is Chwani? He's nowhere to be found. He's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Mahanu can go on.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can go on.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Titus Mahanu. I am I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I practice here in Nairobi for over 10 years now. I have been working in my own small way to try and dismantle these cartels that are tearing down our country. I've been doing my bit, especially on issues that concern KEMSA, because I'm one of the service providers there. In fact, on the 22nd of this month, we have a huge case that involves the chairman and some part of the management that are demanding a bribe of 15 million from me before they can approve payment of the services that we rendered. A while ago, I saw the story being shared on Twitter, and I'd like to invite all Kenyans from all walks of life to keep on monitoring this. So back to the issue that concerns what we're discussing about. I'm going to talk about three issues. Number one, the Finland scandal. I've heard about the cries that the lady from Wasingishu is talking about. I understand that there is a criminal case that is going on, but we all need to understand that a criminal case will never lead to refund of that money. The most that is likely to happen is that those people that were involved, as well as the county government, are going to be found guilty, convicted, or probably ordered to pay a fine. But still, the money that was lost it is highly unlikely that the money is going to be refunded. So what needs to be done, because Eric and the viewers are asking that the real action that needs to be done at this particular moment is we need to put our heads together and file a recovery suit against the county government of Wasingishu, as well as Senator Mandago and all those scoundrels that were involved in this heist. So that is point number one. I'm also going to talk about, and perhaps we can get in touch with Eric and Cyprian so that we can put up a legal team. I am willing to be part and parcel of that legal team. I can see my senior Willis is here, and we can work through on this issue so that we can help those people that have suffered in Wasingishu. Number two, I'm going to talk about the public debt, and I'm going to pick it up from where Jimmy left. The state is so deplorable that we need to action this. What we need to understand is that all judicial authority in our country belongs to the people. And the same way the Gen Zs have come up and they have forced the withdrawal of the finance bill, the people in this country can also come up and demand that the judiciary must exercise the judicial authority in a manner that is in line with the Constitution. I believe that systems are always designed to deliver results. So when you see a system like the judiciary failing to deliver results, that means someone is tampering with the system to make it work that way for their own selfish gains. So we need to start demanding that the judiciary must rise up to the occasion and conclude these cases. In order to assess this issue of the public debt, I suggest that we need also to put up our heads together and perhaps file a composite suit, because the Constitution allows us to seek declaratory orders, to seek stay orders, to such an extent that we put to halt the payment of this debt to allow for a forensic audit so that we can really understand how did we get ourselves to this point?
Okay.
How do
So
this?
just on, you said it is possible to put a suit as
Yes,
as citizens. We can
yes,
fundraise and fundraise and
ab-
put a suit.
ab- absolutely, Eric. Under
Mhm.
the Constitution, Article 23,
Yes.
Kenyans can put up a petition and file it in the High Court and seek declaratory orders of any nature. Declaratory orders in the nature that this public debt has become a public problem and we need a forensic order, a forensic audit. Stay orders can be granted. And I have also heard Jimmy saying that there are lawyers who are doing pro bono cases in foreign jurisdictions. We have what we call in law, we have something called extradition proceedings. We can get orders in our courts and register in those countries that concerns these fellows who have put up these debts against us, for purposes of also getting stay orders from those countries. So this legal process is a very strong weapon that we can use at this particular moment. And I can tell you, we can get stay orders at this point. Remember, the issue of the public debt arises from the law of contract. And under the law of contract, we have several doctrines that can assist us in the circumstances. We have the doctrine of privity of contract, which provides clearly that if you are not part and parcel of a contract or a liability that is arising from a contract, then you are not liable to pay for it. In a country setup, before a government can borrow money, they need to get authority and consent from the citizens. Now, citizens give the authority to governments to borrow money through parliamentary approval. Just like in a situation of a company, before the directors and shareholders can act on behalf of a company, they must get authority from the company shareholders under seal. So similarly, even in a country, before a government can borrow, it must demonstrate that it got approval from the citizens. So we citizens can invoke the doctrine of privity to contract, and on that basis get stay orders to halt the payment of these public debt pending a forensic audit to ascertain exactly what happened. Of course, the other doctrine that will help us is the doctrine of extupi, whereby if an act arises from an illegality, there is no way, if you are part and parcel of that illegality, you may want to benefit from it. So IMF, the Paris group, the London group, the Chinese, and the Eurobond, how it's being manipulated, cannot purport to benefit from this illegality if for sure it has been demonstrated that the manner in which these debts came to be is not according to what is contemplated in our laws. And almost as I conclude, the doctrine of estoppel can also come in and assist us in prosecuting this case. So, as we think about the way forward, we need, of course, as citizens, to start asking questions about disclosure of the contracts that led to these deaths. And through this forum, which we have demonstrated that is a very powerful forum, we can get this information. So all the professionals, all everyone that is in this forum that is concerned needs to start doing their bit so that we can get this information. Let us start, probably, Eric, the next session we are having. Let us also have a status update of the matters that we want to progress insofar as this debt is concerned. Let us try to come up with a number of professionals, lawyers, accountants, auditors, so that we start compiling materials for purposes of getting these court orders. So that is what we need to do.
Kuchapa kazi jioni ikifika mtu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
As I conclude on the issue of the status of the revolution, 2 minutes, 1 minute,
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
As we continue championing on this issue of our revolution, we need to identify short-term and long-term goals. Short-term goals, as the president gears up towards appointing a new cabinet, we need to continue demanding that so many heads need to roll. We need to revamp our state corporations. We need to ensure that these people who are currently serving as state corporation heads, the CEOs, the board members, and the chairman, these people need to go. We need to have an overhaul. We need to start afresh. And as new people are brought into office, the first thing is we need to make public service, we need to decommercialize public service. We need to put up demands to the extent that if you're coming to serve members of the public, you should be paid according to your job group, based on your credentials. If you are an MP, if you are a cabinet secretary, if you are a CEO of a state corporation, if you are a chairman, if you are a board member, you should be paid your remuneration based on your job group. And job groups are defined by your level of education. That is the only way we are going to decommercialize public service. And as we demand demand dissolution of parliament, when new MPs will come in, we should also demand that they should be paid according to their level of education. Job groups. Let us have a scenario where if we have an MP who has not gone to university or doesn't have any certificate, you should be paid just like a janitor. So that you can, if you want more salary, you should be encouraged to go back to school. That is the only way we will be able to demotivate this thing, and slowly by slowly, we will get people who want to serve Kenyans. Thank you so much, Eric, and let's keep on engaging.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As I hand over this chance to Jack, the young man called Chwani wants to tell us something. Can he tell us what he wants to tell us? Chwani? Chwani, can you start? Can you start, please? Chwani, can you start?
Hello.
Can you go on, Chwani? This is the last chance I'm giving you.
Hello, Nyakundi. Can I speak?
All right, consider that chance gone. Let me talk to Jack. Jack, you were saying something about fertilizer and the contaminated sugar and the cancer that we are going to experience in the next many years. What is this? Jack?
Experience in the next many years. Yes, Eric, thank you so much.
Yeah, go on. I hope you've gotten your internet. We want to finish this very fast to give others an opportunity. You are talking about fertilizer and the contaminated sugar that Kenyans are taking. Kenyans, you are taking contaminated sugar. You are facing years and years of cancer.
That is true, Eric. Mithika Linturi brought in contaminated sugar, and it's like life is moving on as usual. We are having Hello, can you hear me, Eric?
Yeah, go on, go on. Your internet is the problem, but go on.
We are going, very sorry we lost the people like Keuna. And in the near future, we are going to have a disaster because of the contaminated sugar that came in under mythical Inturi and went to the market. And the president is laughing about it. Everything is normal. Life is going on in Kenya as usual. That one aside, we have a fertilizer scandal. A minister brings in fertilizer, and fertilizer that is not fertilizer, that is mixed with maram and cow dung. At the end of the day, the net effect is that the production, the food we are going to harvest this time, I was at home, you have a cob of maize that has hardly less than 10 maize tablets on it. It is a disaster. So when I realized this, I'm also a chairman of Public Investments Committee, Education and Governance. My work is to audit government, is to put government into proper checks and balances. I was so pained because I come from a farming region. Bomola is a farming region and largely Western Kenya. So when I prosecuted the removal of mythical Inturi went.
Hello, Cyprian. Are you able to get him?
I can't get him.
Can you hear me?
Eric,
Your internet is the problem, sir.
Eric, can I have 2 minutes?
Let him finish.
As I finish, Eric, mythical Inturi must be prosecuted for the crimes he's had against the Kenyan people. And the
How are you
Kenyans
planning to do that, sir?
There is a case in court already by Law Society of Kenya, Law Society of Kenya, where we are enjoined, and it's coming up that he blatantly went against the constitution. Yes, we have a case. Kenyans have a case against him, and we must prosecute mythical Inturi, and we must move it to the logical conclusion. As I support the Gen Z for what they have done up to now, I want to vehemently oppose an idea that is coming up of dialogue. An idea, you see, what the political wing has not achieved for so long because of mixed interests, this generation has done it in less than weeks. Yesterday, I was with Raila Odinga, my party leader in Azimio. I was with Kalonzo Musyoka and all the Azimio brigade, and I told them, don't interfere with these young people. Let them finish that which they started. We cannot dialogue with William Ruto when now we are getting bodies, young people whose only problem and mistake was to go on streets and voice what.
Yes,
Eric?
yes. Go on. We still hear you.
Can I speak now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I want to be very quick. Now, just to tell you why I was saying people like William Ruto cannot solve this problem, I want to express the illegality that has done over the last 1 year in his first budget. The development budget in the appropriations bill said that they are going to borrow foreign and external loans of 313 billion shillings. 313 billion shillings. Those are the only loans that have been approved on the budget of Kenya. And those have gone to development as per our laws. They are even listed what they are going for. In the last 1 year, that ended June 30th, his first budget, he ended up borrowing 1.
We can hear you. Go on.
And I repeat, they are in a conspiracy of a Ponzi scheme. And I again repeat, KCB, Co-op Bank, and Equity Bank, who are not involved in this malfeasance, and there are many others, get into those banks and deposit. These banks are part of our slavery and they must be cut off, completely cut off. And I want to say, in addition to this, that the only dialogue we should be talking about with William Samoei Ruto is a dialogue at the ballot box, no other. That is where we want to dialogue. And let me end with a famous quote I saw yesterday on on James Smart's Twitter handle. And it was from a famous president from Burkina Faso called Thomas Sankara. He said, if we don't pay the debt, the lenders will not die. But if we pay it, we will die. That is the situation in Kenya. If we continue paying this, we will die. We must stop our death.
So
Asante sana.
before you go, Jimmy, now can you give us practical steps? Just tell us these are the practical steps that we need to embrace in order to avoid paying this odious debt. This is what we need to do. This is the next step. This is what we should do. This is what the citizen can do. And this is how we will stop the payment of this odious debt that we are not supposed to pay.
The only way, and I repeat, the only way is to remove this regime from power. And any person who has been part of this malfeasance, especially over the last 12 or so years, must be removed from any decision-making position. That is the only way. The kind of money we are talking about is so humongous, so humongous. You are not going to sort it. And I appreciate the legal aspect that you can go to court, you can do this. I'm telling you, you're talking about phenomenal amounts of money. 50, 60 billion dollars that have been looted from us. And I'm telling you, they will buy nearly every institution. You must remove this regime from power. It must get out. It must have a conversation with us at the ballot box before 2027. It is the only way we are going to be able to do this. This is the only single way we are going to stop these bullets that are coming and killing our children. It must end. Our death must end. And it can only end with the perpetrators behind bars and them out of power.
All right. Before you, of course, you stay around so that you give us a parting shot. I'm looking for Nelson Amenya. He with the JKI hist. I've tried looking for him, sent him a link. Oh, he's here. Nelson, go on and tell us about the JKIA hist. What happened? Why was someone trying to lease or sell our airports? What was the reason? Why were they doing this? I'm sure you have the documents, you understand because that is your area, you understand the nitty-gritties in that report and that proposal that you shared. Can you please tell us what happened?
Yes, thank you very much. We have had hitches and glitches here and there, but finally I'm here. So I just want to talk about this very shocking documents that I received, and they're being pushed from the highest offices, the ministry, state house, from KAA. So it's not as they can be able to trace them.
Nelson, are you still there?
Sorry. I think I was muted. So, I was saying if you go to the PPP Act, the way we are supposed to do projects, public projects, number one, you're supposed to do bidding. And then number two, you can do direct procurement. And then number three, you can do public, it's called PIP, privately initiated proposal. And wait 1 second, I opened this act. I have it here. Okay, this is the act. So for anyone who's interested, it's the PPP Act of 2021. And I'm going to read section 22. Okay, so section 22 talks about ensuring that there is public participation on any PPP project, which wasn't done by Murkomen and the KAA team. And then so Murkomen was trying to bypass all this, and he went directly to the PIP. But if you look at the PPP Act, it recommends the bidding process. It recommends bidding process over any other way of PPP, but they did not want it to go the bidding process. However, there was companies already willing to bid for this listing of JKIA, and companies from Singapore, companies from Qatar, but Murkomen and his people, together with Kositani, they went ahead and picked a company called Adani Group from India. Adani Group from India is one of the most corrupt companies from India. It is so corrupt that there was a company from the US, it's called Hindenburg Research. Hindenburg Research did a research on them, and the revelations were super shocking. If you read these things, I'm just going to read a few of them about Adani Group. So Gautam Adani is Gautam Adani is the owner of Adani Group. So Gautam Adani's brother-in-law, Samia Vora, was accused by the DRI of being a ringleader of the same diamond trading scam and of repeatedly making false statements to regulators. He was subsequently promoted to executive director of the critical Adani Australia division. Gautam Adani's elder brother, Vinod Adani, has been described by media as an elusive figure. He has regularly been found at the center of government investigations in Adani for his alleged role in managing a network of offshore entities used to facilitate fraud. Our research, which included downloading and cataloging the entire Mauritius corporate registry, has uncovered that Vinod Adani, through several close associates, manages a vast labyrinth of offshore shell entities. We have identified 38 Mauritius shell entities controlled by Vinod Adani or close associates. We have identified entities that are also surreptitiously controlled by Vinod Adani in Cyprus, the UAE, Singapore, and several Caribbean islands. Many of the Vinod Adani associated entities have no obvious signs of operations, including no reported employees, no independent addresses or phone numbers, and no meaningful online presence. Despite this, they have collectively moved billions of dollars into Indian Adani publicly listed and private entities, often without required disclosure of the related party nature of the deals. Okay, let me go back up. The Adani Group has previously been the focus of 4 major government fraud investigations, which have allegedly money laundering, theft of taxpayer funds, and corruption, totaling an estimated US $17 billion. Adani family members allegedly cooperated to create offshore shell entities in tax haven jurisdictions like Mauritius, the UAE, and Caribbean islands, generating forged import-export documentation in an apparent effort to generate fake or illegitimate turnover to siphon money from the listed companies. Key listed Adani companies have also taken on substantial debt, including pledging shares of their. It goes on and on and on. They have over 300 corrupt cases, and at the moment, Adani Group is led by a man called Adani, and he's the third richest man in the world. He is second richest man in India. So corrupt is the man, and the companies that they have been named. They have a scandal called the short selling scandal, and it's the biggest corporate scandal in the world in history. So the reason why I'm reading all this is because this is the company that Murkomen saw fit to lease our JKIA for 30 good years. I was reading the proposal, the PIP proposal, and the reason why, they have to justify why they went with PIP, and yet in the PPP Act, there is 4 different ways you can procure, you can lease and do PPP partnerships. And the reason why they chose PIP is very lame. They say in this document that the reason they choose PIP is because if they do bidding, it will take 18 months. And in addition, after they have submitted the bidders, it will take an additional 4 to 6 months to go through and peruse through the bidding, the proposals, and then identify one person or one company to do this project and to lease out JKIA for the next 30 years. So the reason behind PIP is very lame and does not qualify why they chose it. And then number 2, they did not do public participation. It's hidden. Everything is shredded in secrecy. Everything is being done in hush tones, and no one knows anything about this deal up to today. And my sources say that in about a month, this deal is going to be inked, and it will become, as you know, in Tanzania, they are already operating their ports. So they are hoping that even in Kenya, they will quietly enter and sign the deal without Kenyans knowing what's happening to the most precious international airport, JKIA. And we know JKIA is one of the busiest airports in Africa. And to make it even worse, JKIA in their report does not make losses. It actually makes profit. And they have actually said that JKIA is they're underpricing their services. If you compare it with Addis Ababa is about 50 to 60% more expensive for carriers to run their operations in Addis Ababa, to land, all these landing fees. If you compare with JKIA, and they propose that they will double the prices in Kenya. If you double the prices of JKIA alone, last year they made about 13 million US dollars in terms of profit, and about 90 million US dollars in terms of revenues. So if you double, it means JKIA will be going towards 160 million in terms of revenues and about 26 million in terms of profits after you've deducted all the operations and everything. So this alone shows you that JKIA is not haijalemewa. It can still operate by itself, and we can still go on and do all these projects that we want to do, minus this very super corrupt company that Murkomen wants to impose on us without public participation and without a bidding process where other people who are more qualified and who are don't have integrity issues were ready to bid, but they were shortchanged by these corrupt people surrounding the deal, and they don't want people to know this. This is why we have to speak out about this. And then another point is that so they use an SPV model, which means that they will create a company in Kenya which will be running the operations, and then they went ahead and said they will create a consortium, a holding company, and a consortium means it's a few companies together, and a holding company means that their only work is to combine. So, like, for example, I used to work for a company that is a multinational. So, a multinational normally has a corporate head office, and the corporate head office is only a holding company that just consolidates the income only. There is nothing else they're doing. They don't do business, they don't run anything, they just consolidate their subsidiaries. So, they've created a holding company in UAE. UAE, as you've heard from the report, is a tax haven. This is how people evade tax. This is how people want to do the double Dutch sandwich. This is how people want to, like Murkomen, if they want to have the shares in companies, they will take it to the tax haven. And then from there, you cannot trace this money. So we are asking, why are they doing this kind of corporate structure where they have to go through a tax haven like Dubai? Why can't they just operate as Adani from India directly to Kenya? And if you go through Dubai, it means that they are able to do something called transfer pricing. And this is how even European companies are stealing from Congo, from Botswana, from so many other different African countries. They steal from these countries through transfer pricing. So, how it happens, if, for example, Adani says they have a patent, intellectual patent, or whatever patent they have, they will come and say that Adani is charging the Kenyan SPV for such and such a patent. So the income that we make as JKIA in Kenya will be deducted. You know, the way EBITDA works, they will deduct the patent as a cost. So by the time it reaches where we have to deduct tax, they have already deducted fake costs in terms of transfer pricing. And this is why they are doing this thing of we have to have a company in the UAE and then another company and another company. And if it spans towards different jurisdictions, it's harder for us to track our money. And so
Okay.
this is, yes, Amerix.
Yes. I want to interrupt you a bit. Francis has been saying a lot about JKIA and how JKIA has been limping, but we can hear from here that there is profit. Francis, what is your comment on this? Because Nelson says JKIA makes a lot of, or KAA makes a lot of profit. I heard there, he said something like 13 million. Yet
US
we are being
dollars,
told
yes.
every time that it makes losses.
No.
Francis.
I think I was never about, I was mostly about Kenya Airways. I was mostly about the leases that were embarked on. In fact, the other day, somebody told me, I had a whistleblower telling me that there were two companies which were incorporated in the Cayman Islands and whatnot. One was, I think, called Kifaru, and another one called, I'll remember the names shortly. But they bought some Embraer. Embraer is an airplane brand from Brazil, and they all of them are denoted with the code name FF, which was Fast Family, which are owned by Uhuru Kenyatta. And so Kenya Airways was compelled to pay those outlandish leases on behalf of Kenya Airways to aeroplanes owned by the Kenyatta family, who those code names are denoted with FF, which was the Embraer model. And so when Ruto came in, don't forget that when we are talking about odious debt, connect to Kenya Airways, because it's been one of the vessels which has been used to siphon taxpayers' money into private accounts. So when Ruto came in, where he was supposed to resolve those issues, then some of his cronies have gotten also other flights, so that we can continue funding Kenya Airways from taxpayers' money. We can continue giving them money under the guise of bailing out. And we've given them, first of all, don't forget when it was being privatized in the 90s, we were told that by privatization, it will be self-sufficient, it will be profitable. And they came up with all these cock and bull stories just to sell the privatization agenda when I was talking about Philip Ndegwa and whatnot. But if you look at the amount of money we have spent post-privatization, it is close to 100 billion Kenya shillings. Now, that money, because, first of all, I was talking about somebody, the CEO at the time was Titus Naikuni. Titus Naikuni, first of all, he belongs to committee prison. I don't understand why Titus Naikuni, if we are giving the same treatment to Farah Malim, he goes to Sarova and he's told he cannot stay there because of his toxic utterances, then Titus Naikuni should not be allowed to eat or drink anywhere, just like we want to do with Devin D because of his toxicity, defending war crimes. We should not be allowing these people to live amongst us. So Titus Naikuni, then came somebody called Bovin Gunze. Bovin Gunze was the one now, and now the chairmanship was Michael Joseph. Michael Joseph is a crook from South Africa. I don't know how he ended up here. I don't know how he was at one time the chairman of Safaricom and KQ and almost all the well-performing blue chip companies. But if you look, there is always a paper trail of corruption. Then Jeremy Mbuvin Gunze was the CEO of Kenya Airways when they were being bailed out with billions of shillings of our taxpayers' money to pay for for leases or for aircraft owned by the Kenyatta family. And his brother, you can't make this stuff up, I kid you not. His brother, called Jeremy Ngunze, was the CEO of CBA Kenya chapter. So here we have two brothers working for the same criminal outfit, which is called the Kenyatta Family Criminal Enterprise, siphoning taxpayers' money, because now CBA is also amongst other banks which have profited from anti-competitive practices. They have been involved in intellectual property theft. They have been involved also in the debt issue. They appear in the debt register of the banks. I know we have spoken about Equity Bank. We have spoken about KCB. We have spoken about Coop Bank as the lead banks which have funded and fueled the government's appetite for debt. If you go there, you just want a 1 million shilling overdraft, they will make you jump through hoops so that you can just access an OD of just 1 million shillings. But they give government carte blanche. They give them billions of shillings every year under the guise of domestic debt, because it's, as you heard, it's a Ponzi scheme.
Yes.
James Mwangi has become a dollar billionaire in this republic from buying bonds, from domestic debt,
Yes.
mopping up capital from the commercial market. We cannot get credit. Our biggest weakness is lack of credit when we are doing enterprise, and it's because all the money is going to government, because they have seen it is lucrative to loan to government, and then they can be able to sort themselves out there with their own commissions and whatnot. So Kenya airports, whether it makes profit or not, first of all, don't forget that they terminated the Greenfield terminal, which was supposed to expand our capacity to make us a competitive hub in the region. Ethiopia has taken over us. First of all, they have more aircraft. In Kenya, we invested in these small planes called Embraer. Those Embraers, they are being taken to the key routes. They don't have good facilities, if it's the business class, if it's the first class. And so we are underwriting the delusions, and we are underwriting the poor financial decisions of Kenya Airways based on our taxes. So as we take on the audit of the odious debt, we must also audit all the poor financial decisions that have been undertaken by the subsequent governments and individuals with an objective of securing our money. We have to convert whatever private assets that they have taken from our country. We have to secure them. They have to be returned to the state. They don't have to be regrabbed by other people. They have to be regrabbed. Everything, even the MPs who have stolen CDF money, we have to now repossess that so that it goes into the to the state, because these were crimes which were committed, and we have to catch up with time that they have
Thank you.
stolen from
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you very much, Amerix.
Thank you. All right, Nelson, that was just a kicker on what you were saying. Maybe you can tell us in a few minutes, 2 minutes or 3, before we give Mercy Tarus and the rest. I can see Soko analyst here and the others. What can we do as a nation? You know, we talk too much, but in your opinion, because you are the professional here, what can we do? The lawyers are here to guide us on the legal journey. They can tell us what to do, but what are you going to do? Or what do you propose we do as a nation to ensure that such kind of heist and the people behind it are put in jail?
Thank you, Amerix. Can I just finish the 3-4 points I had, and then I can talk about what we should do?
In the interest of time, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. So I just wanted to also say that in this deal and proposal, they're trying to propose the government to concessions. And one of the concessions they want is that they want to operate in Kenya tax free. They haven't mentioned the number of years. They just say they want to operate without paying corporate income tax for some years. And also, I don't know if this is standard in deals, but they're saying after the deal is over in 30 years, JKIA will have to pay for the capex, and also they will have to pay them for the capex, the money they used for the capex, which is 1.5 billion US dollars. And in my view, this 1.5 billion US dollars is the same amount of money we saw the Eurobond theft, the money that never arrived in Kenya. So it means that we are able to even finance this project on our own if we can take back the money that has been stolen. And they're also saying that after the 30 years is over, it's not over, because they are asking for 18% equity in JKIA forever. So this means that basically they will own us forever, 18%. And this is totally unacceptable. And mind you, this company is the least performing company in India in terms of airport operations. And their biggest project is called Navi Mumbai. It's their only biggest project that you can compare to JKIA. The rest you cannot, they're too small. And even this Navi Mumbai is going to be finished in 2032. So we are entrusting people who have not even done a project of this magnitude in any of their projects to do it in Kenya. Like, we are being used as scapegoats. So, and your question, Amerix, about what we need to do is, it's very simple. We need to make a lot of noise, and also we need to start preparing to take over these positions. We cannot just be in the outside and every day, we keep complaining about bad governance. We need to be the leaders we want to see. We need to go into those leadership positions. You have seen in the UK, they were inaugurating very young Gen Z leaders into the House of Commons. So this needs to happen also in Kenya. But at the moment, we need to increase the pressure. We need to occupy JKIA. We need to occupy all those offices until these things stop happening. This is how revolutions happened in the past. I've spoken so much about the French Revolution. It was the young people who went and demanded, their rights, and demanded for what was right, and it happened. It's not easy. It can take a lot of time. It can take shorter time, but if we keep pushing, it will happen. And also, I have spoken about critical junctures. How in history, when a revolution happens, you have two choices. You can either go the side of whatever people are talking about, like Sudan and the rest, or you can go the path of prosperity. And this is what happened in France. This is what happened in England during the Glorious Revolution. This is what happened in the US. This is what happened in many other prosperous nations. They were at this critical juncture, a revolution moment, and they chose to go the right direction. So this is the moment that we, as the young people, we need to choose which direction to take our country, to either reclaim it and go and become prosperous and to say no to all these things that are happening now, or to turn our eye and lose the revolution and, you know, everything that Jimmy Wanjigi has just spoken about to continue. So the choice is ours, but everything is laid bare on us. And there is a saying, as I finish, that I quoted in one of the spaces. It says, in every generation, we have our mission. So every generation has a mission, and it's upon us either to fulfill the mission or to betray the mission. So it's upon us today as the young people to either fulfill our mission of economic liberation and independence in Kenya or to betray it.
Thank you very much, Nelson, for that in-depth. There was only one person who had a remaining issue, I think because of network. I'll give them a minute or two. Mercy Tarus. Mercy Tarus? Yeah, go on. Just unmute your mic and start talking so that we don't waste time.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me
Yes.
now. I hope you can hear me
Yes,
now.
yes, yes.
Thank you
We
very
are giving you
much.
2 minutes. You can switch on. You can switch off
Yes.
your space so that you don't listen
All
to
right.
yourself again. That's why we are having this miscommunication.
We are going to talk about the fertilizer scandal and bad seeds. What most people don't know, a colleague of mine has tried to talk about it, but what most people don't know is that this is the season that the fertilizer scandal came out. But last year, 11 months ago, there were bad seeds. People in Baringo were given seeds that after they planted, they only harvested cobs. Can you imagine that? So you guys, you need to think about, is this a sabotage or what is this? What is happening to the food security? Na ni vizuri by the way tufikirie what happens to that farmer when he's uko away from Nairobi. When these people came to do a community for and hear from the farmers, they were given a report walifaa walete Nairobi. Awase report yenye walipewa walete, they wrote that report and shelved it. And then the report that came to the Senate was not the report that they took from the farm. Now you can imagine this farmer has loans. Huyu farmer last season alikuwa sabotaged. This season amekuwa sabotaged. So inamaanisha ikifika next year umse hatakuwa na doya school fees. Sasa kuna food insecurity. A farmer whose main economic thing is farming, sahi hana food. Now, this is manufactured poverty. That is how they keep us in line. This person now has lifestyle diseases because of depression, stress. Anafaa alipe school fees, hana pesa. Last season haku harvest anything, this season hata harvest anything. Most probably next season, they will come up with something else to make that farmer remain poor so that they can depend on that MP, on that woman rep, on that governor, and all those leaders. But again, that is what the government does for you. As I finish, why are we here? It is because the people that have been put in those offices, they don't have merits. We lack meritocracy. Umse hajui policies zenye anafaa kufuata. You can imagine a whole CS is being asked if they know about that fertilizer. And what do they say? They say, my boss knows that there was fake fertilizer. And then first of all, before aseme hivyo, anakata anasema mimi sijui anything about fake fertilizer. Someone who is supposed to stand on such an important ministry. Again, integrity issues. So this person hana merits. This person does not know the policies because they don't have any merit to be in that office. And they do not follow the rule of law. So they have integrity issues. Medics, it is important that you know that the person who is chairing your Senate Committee for Health is Mandago, someone who is under scrutiny for embezzlement, fraud, corruption of 1.1 billion, is overseeing your committee in the Senate. So that when you start asking why you're not being posted, why they want to not follow that CBA policy that you guys signed, you know who is behind that thing. We want the president to understand that being fired does not insulate you from prosecution. Watu wa State House, kama mnasikia hii, go and tell Mr. President that we have said that even if you fire them, it does not insulate them from prosecution. Right now, we have food insecurity due to that fertilizer scandal, due to the bad seeds that were provided to the farmers. And now we want to sit pretty and look pretty as if nothing is happening in the country. Repentance, Mr. President, without restitution is just hot air. Hakuna kitu yenye umefanya hapo. Sasa umse ameenda amefanya kabineti yake, hiyo haina shida. But sasa aliwafanya very ceremoniously. Amewaita mkutano, amewapea food, wamekaa hapo, wamediscuss vitu zao, alafu after a few days ndo anakuja anatuambia, by the way guys, I fired these people. We are not stupid. You gave them a state-of-the-art send-off. Like they are going to represent us in a very lucrative spot. But we are watching. Now he's creating room for marriage between the government and the opposition, which is not about them, the government, or the opposition. And it seems like they are forgetting that. It is about the people of Kenya giving their lives for the rule of law to be upheld. Finally, this is not just about the people who have given their lives. It is also about those people whose lives have been brutally taken by the police. Mr. President, this is my parting shot. There is nothing as dangerous as a broken and desperate person fighting for a better future because he will do everything in his power to survive. Chelangat Mutahi died on the Sabasaba of 2013, like a true hero. Let's give her flowers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for that. Mwenye masikio amesikia. Lekish.
Hi, Amerix. Before he speaks, I just want to say that deal ya JKIA, it's going to be signed in 1 month. So guys, we need to, make pressure, and also we are going to court tomorrow to make them release the documents and make them public for participation.
All right. So you're going to court tomorrow?
Yes. With
Please do. I think I'll create something like an mchanga or something so that this public litigation or public interest litigation, we can have a fund where people, if Kina Willis or whatever lawyers go to court, can be sending them some mafuta here kidogo on credit. So we will follow it up and see how it goes on. Thank you very much. Rufus?
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. And thanks, Amerix, for the opportunity. So my input on this conversation is that nobody is talking about the money. So the way we conventionally view the money, it's something that we use in our day-to-day lives. It's something that we earn when you work a job, when you do a business, but there's more to money, and I think everyone needs money. So the way personally I view money, it's a technology that we use to store value. In a way, or in a very simplistic way, if you go and work somewhere and provide labor that is worth, let's say, 10 meals, then you need to have a technology that stores that value, so that when you need that value in future, you're able to recoup that 10 meals either for yourself or for your kids. But then the current system that we have with the Kenya shilling hasn't been working well. And this is due to the current monetary policy we are having. So if you have wondered or seen how, let's say, a primary school or secondary school teacher was able to raise a family of 5 in the 90s have a decent home and perhaps even a car. And today, that reality is impossible. It's mainly because the money is broken. So we don't talk about these things. And I think it's very important that everyone, as we go through this civic education, tries to understand what money is and how the current administration is making it so worse that even for the most corrupt guys, they understand the money is broken. If you look at some of these corrupt politicians, they're simply converting their Kenya shillings into either dollars or just buying real estate because they know that the M2 money supply in Kenya is being expanded. So over the last 1 year, M2 money supply was expanded by 6.1%, which means that if you are an average Kenyan and your income didn't go up by 6.1%, then the purchasing power of your money has really gone down. Your personal economy is simply losing. So you're working hard and hard to keep earning an income, but the purchasing power of your money is simply just going down. So I believe it's time we start questioning these things, bring transparency to understand how much Kenya shillings are supplying in the economy, how much of this amount of money is being added into our economy, because everything is added out work being done, it's value being stolen from your money, the person who is holding Kenya shillings. So think about it this way. If you have a pot of boiling tea, which is worth, let's say, 10 cups, and somebody comes and adds a glass of water in that, and then fetches a glass of tea, then they didn't create new tea. They basically stole from everyone who owned the previous tea. So that's the same way it applies. So the moment you see money being expanded by 6.1% in a year, this is how you're supposed to interpret it. So if every one of you guys who are in this space have contributed economically to grow the economy by 5%, every farmer who has grown food, every teacher who have dedicated their time to teach for a whole year, and every other person in the economy who have contributed value to the economy. And once you calculate all that into what we call the GDP, and the economy has grown by, let's say, 5%, and then the government expands the monetary supply of the Kenya shilling, what basically that means is that all the contribution we have made into the economy is being stolen by expanding the monetary supply. So when I was listening to Jimmy Wanjege talking about the expansion or the sources of money for the government, yes, he talked about raising taxes, money through taxes. He talked about raising money through debt to fit a deficit, which is limited by the constitution. He missed the point that the Kenya shilling is the one true asset that the government uses to take value even from the money that you hide on your mattress. It's not safe. The government has the ability to devalue that by expanding the amount of money supply in the system. And that's a really important conversation that everyone needs to have. So once we answer the question of what is money, how is it created, is there transparency, then it will become clear that we have to address these issues with the central bank monetary policy.
Thank you very much, Rufus. Soko analyst, are you there? You can raise your issue, Soko analyst. There is a petition we took to different institutions seeking the arraignment of Farah Maalim. I don't know how far it went, but I'm looking for Soko analyst wherever he is. If he's not there, you can give this opportunity to this young man called Milton. Milton, what do you want to say, sir? Welcome.
Thank you so much. There's something that I've been really thinking about. Whenever we've had this citizen assembly, we've always had some members of parliament also coming in. Another conversation, I really concur with what Jimmy said about our debt, and I just think the best thing is just to default. But now, on top of that, our recurrent expenditure is something that is a very huge thing to this small country. Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I wanted maybe Willis to advise us. Yeah. How do citizens come up with a referendum? Because at the moment the country is ripe for it. How do we come up with a referendum? The IBC is going to be formed, and wherever. How can the citizens come up with a referendum? Because we are paying people too much, and the country can't sustain that. And also, I think we are also paying the so-called wakora a lot of money. And then I don't know how we are going to also balance the issue of integrity in leadership, because most of the time you get that we like most people vie in Kenya so that they get protected. You find a member of parliament maybe has been involved in cases of money laundering, or maybe a foreign nationals gold and such, like criminals. Most of them usually vie so that when they're members of parliament or they're in leadership, it's at least easier for them to maneuver the cases. Because when you're a member of parliament and you're a criminal, there's a say someone once told me that the government loves criminals in this way. If you're a criminal, so for example, let me say someone like John Waluke, that is a vote for the government in any bill they will bring. Whether they say that tomorrow, like we are supposed to like behead everyone, he will vote yes. Why? Because he knows that if he doesn't vote yes, the next minute the DCA will be there, and wherever he'll be accused even of terrorism. Right? That is the country we are living in. So the issue of integrity, how are we going to balance it next time so that people who have very bad like reputation and all that stay are prevented from vying? Maybe Willis can tell us about that, because that is something that it has been really traumatizing me most of the time. I keep thinking about it, because if we don't solve the issue of integrity, we are still going to have animals, not even human beings, very bad animals in parliament. And with
Yes.
that, they will always, because they will always be representing us, they will always vote for the wrong things because they fear being arrested. Most of these MPs, even senators who maybe they were in opposition and joined the government side, most of them, if you dig down, you will find out that someone ate something at KPLC. Someone was caught with there's a police officer who told me last year that there's a certain member of parliament who he jumped from ODM to supporting the government side. He told me that they arrested him with fake money. Yeah, they arrested a certain member of parliament with fake money. So this guy, he has cases deep down. So he has to support the government in whichever situation. So maybe Willis can advise us on that, because we need to reduce
Oh, yeah.
salaries and we need integrity to be something that we keep top notch. Thank you.
All right. Willis will tell us that as we wind up. So, co-analyst, 3 minutes.
Amerix, thank you very much. I don't have much to say, but one, I would like to urge every young person in Kenya to get an ID so that we can actually be able to vote out these people come 2027. Then number two, we need to actually study and understand how to recall an MP, because I believe if we can recall 50 MPs, we can have the remaining ones and impeach the president. Then number three is we need to understand that Ruto loves criminals, because that's the only way he can be able to leverage against them and get what he wants. Right now, every person is actually very angry and bitter. So let us keep up the engagement. Let us educate our brothers and sisters in the up country. Let us talk to our fathers, our parents, our grandparents, for them to understand what is really going on. And lastly, we also need to say hello to EPRA, because they've gone behind and increased the road levy from 18 to 25 shillings, and this is very illegal. So as we plan for Tuesday, we also need to look at the hanging fruits so that people can actually realize that we are not joking and we are very serious. Other than that, thank you so much for Amerix and Cyprian for this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Straight to the point. Willis, there's that EPRA, there's that levy that they have increased 18 to 25. Is it legal? Is that thing legal?
It's obviously not legal.
Hmm.
One thing I must point out at this point is that
for all of us as citizens, what I like about this platform is that it brings everybody across the board. People working in government, people have access to documents, people have access to information. What we need to do as we are continuing with this struggle is encourage our people in those spaces to become whistleblowers. If you don't have the courage to speak openly, you can share this information even to Amerix, to myself, or to any other person who you believe has the courage of their conviction to speak out. Collect as much as you can. Your brother, your sister, your friend, your father, your auntie, works in government, has access to what is going on. Please collect as much information as you can. You can hand it over confidentially to those who are courageous enough to face the public. Once we have this trove of evidence, we will be able to now take on this system. I say that because you find most of these complaints, they are actually illegalities. These are criminal enterprise that is going on in the country as we speak. And to take down that criminal enterprise, part of it is we must get it on the streets, but also if we are to use their system, we must use that court platform to expose them and to call them to account. Even the CSS who've been sacked, it cannot just go for nothing. Those CSS, some of them were complicit in criminal activities. They need to be charged. If the DPP will not charge them, if I have access to any evidence that implicates them or any other lawyer, and there's already a team of lawyers who are out here trying all they can to collect evidence, and they are willing to present cases in court to even privately prosecute those CSS to answer for these crimes. For those of our people who have been killed, those of our people who have been maimed, in as much as Comey has now resigned, Comey must still be called to book. In as much as Kindiki has been dissolved, Kindiki must still be called to book. Those lives cannot have been lost for nothing. They must answer for the criminality under the command responsibility as we know it. And I was suggesting to some of my colleagues, and something we are exploring, there's this concept of universal jurisdiction, that in as much as you may think that you control the courts in Kenya, I can be free to file a case against you in an EU jurisdiction that recognizes the criminal concept of universal jurisdiction. So if you're William Ruto sitting in Kenya, you think that you're immune to prosecution in Kenya, we are still free to even file a case against him under the command responsibility for these officers who have gone rogue. And we say, this unit has killed this many Kenyans. And you will see a warrant of arrest being issued against William Ruto in an European country or any other jurisdiction that recognizes the universal jurisdiction in place. Like happened when you witnessed when a court in, some small court in France one day issued a warrant of arrest against Kagame. It was because, I mean, look here, you are being mentioned adversely. There's evidence that seeks to imply, and they issued warrants of arrest for him to appear in that court. They managed to deal with that case diplomatically and to deal with the issue that you arrest. We must be able to also call our own to account, if not locally, internationally. And lawyers are able and they are willing to go this far to
So
make
what is
sure
the first thing
that
we will start with this week? I
the
heard
first thing,
Nelson saying he's going to court tomorrow.
yes, now for Nelson's
What are
case,
we doing ourselves?
so Nelson's case, he has already collected evidence. What I will urge that in these other cases, people to collect evidence and share them. Number two, as you suggested, sometimes they may need, you can even do a citizens forum. You raise funds to support lawyers who may be doing these cases outside there and may need some support, or to file those cases, getting filing fees, whatever it is. You can put that also in as a team. And you get somebody who is independent, transparent, to manage and oversee. Amrex yourself, you are able to, I believe you have the confidence of the people to oversee something like that. But the main thing is that even when these cases come up, we turn up in court. We must show the courts that this case does not belong to the lawyer. This case belongs to the people of Kenya, and it is being pursued for their interest. Thank you very much, Amrex.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us this Sunday. And it has been a great Sunday. Of course, everyone will have wanted to be given a mic, but as we say, it is not as easy as we expect.
glory.